Hey, Zoltan, when you hit enable on a feature, what action does it call? Do you know where it is? Is it in the packages module? The packaging module?
Uh, Let me think. Yeah, it should be. Yeah, I think, or is the gallery module maybe? I don't know because there's a feature called gallery or packaging or the other way around.
I see a post for install package details, but I don't know. I don't know if that's it.
Hmm. You got me here.
Yeah, I'm slightly confused myself.
Oui, joyeux anniversaire. Happy birthday, Zoltan.
Thank you, Sébastien. How did you know?
How old are you now? 12? 13?
Yeah, I think something like that. It appeared on my calendar, I don't know how. LinkedIn, I think. Bulldog sous l'été snapot.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's Antoine wrote it on the chat.
Köszönöm.
Piotr is not late.
Okay, shall we?
Shall we?
There is one topic that I really want to talk about today. It's VS 2012 update 1. I heard about that yesterday. I didn't even know it existed. We're getting reports that it breaks our chart. So what's up with that? Do you know about it?
It didn't break it for me.
It didn't break it
For you? Okay. So
Yeah.
how many of you got the update 1 for VS 2012?
It didn't break for me.
Okay. Okay, so then it's a non-issue.
And
it seems to be unrelated. So that guy had a problem with it, but
Yeah, unfortunately, it didn't fix the warnings, the fake warnings about missing references. They promised to fix it.
so maybe I will start with demos because in half an hour the anti-malware service will start and I won't be able to show anything.
okay. Go ahead.
While Sebastian's getting set up, if I may, Bertrand, did you want me to
Yes,
update?
please.
Okay, so not everybody here knows, so let me begin by just saying the following. Sipke, who is obviously one of the active members of the community and a committee member, is doing very, very well. But for those of you who did not know, he did have a pretty serious surgery take place. He had brain surgery take place last Saturday. On Thursday last week in the evening, he started getting really bad headaches. And by Friday, he was smart enough, and with the help of his roommate, smart enough to make it to the emergency room, at which point they did a CT scan and found what's called a venous malformation of the arterioles. So that's something you specifically look for in the brain with CT scans or angiograms you will not find. And what it had done is it started bleeding out this weird formation of the arteries in his brain. He took some aspirins, which exacerbated the bleeding, and they found a 3-centimeter blood clot in his brain, which they did remove on Saturday. So all things considered, he was healthy. His post-op CTs and angiograms were very clean. and he flew home with his girlfriend and his sister, who flew in last Saturday. He flew home on Sunday to the Netherlands, so now he's back home in the Netherlands. Now from him, letting us all know that he's doing very well and happy to be home. So we're very grateful for that.
And how does his sister look like?
I will send you an email, Sebastian, later. So
Because I saw his girlfriend photo, but I want to see his sister.
I'm sure he's going to be very much appreciative of that.
Yeah, welcome.
Sébastien, is your wife seeing these videos?
Sorry?
Is your wife watching these videos?
No, she doesn't know about it.
I make sure she will.
Sebastian's wife is very active in the orchard community.
Yeah,
She's very active, yeah.
she's feeding me, which feeds you. Okay, so is everyone seeing my screen?
Thanks, Ylan.
So just to start with the thing I couldn't show last week, the new projection layout I made. So now if I go to queries, and I have some news content items just to show you. Add a new query. I don't want to break this one. Other news. And then edit, and then just to see the options. Well, let's make it content type, news items, save. And in the layout now, on top of grid and HTML list, there is shape and row. Row, when I click on it, I can still select content and properties. I will just do summary. And here you see all the options to select the layout. So the layout is the container of the list. And then I can select a container tag. So for instance, I could say I want a div as a container. And for each item, I would like another div with a specific class. Okay. And what is nice is that you can also say, I don't want any tag, and I don't want any item tag, and I don't want then also any class because I have no tag. And you could just say at the beginning, I will add a foo, and at the end, I will add bar. So this just lets you define exactly what you want to render in the list. Because I often had the requirement that I wanted a list, but I didn't want any tag. I just wanted the summaries as is. For instance, if you use an HTML framework like Bootstrap and you want all your items to be in 3 columns, you don't want any other container than the container you have to put in your summary itself, in your shape itself. So I just wanted to display the raw contents. So this one is, you can customize everything you need. And you can also...
Yeah, that was actually part of my demo at Harvest. Getting a projection to display with the with comma as a separator and no tags.
Okay.
So this actually makes my demo useless. Thanks.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And the shape one, when I click on it, you can just select what shape type you want to use, like for instance my list. Okay. And by doing that, it will look for the my list shape in your tab, in your theme, sorry. So you can provide a template called my list, and then inside you will have access to all the content items that have been queried, or what is the result of the query. And you can also display anything you want, or just ask for rendering the specific display mode that you are using. So,
Sébastien, couldn't you do a drop-down list or a type ahead instead of typing a shape name?
Why not? Yeah, but it will display all the custom shapes available. It will be a lot. Here you just type something.
But you could filter out those shape descriptors that are coming from the theme. So only the
too complex for what it adds.
And you can even use a token in here.
Yep.
Which means that you could, for example, define a field on your
Yes.
content item that is shaped to use when rendering that, and that could be used here.
Yep. So, and Piotr, what you could do here is have, that's why I was saying, have a templated one. So when you type it, you have your editor and you can exactly type the shape you want directly instead of creating it in the theme. That would be even nicer, I think.
You can make the display type as well. I don't know why one is.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, but yeah, it could be exactly. Yeah, let's do it. Open a bug. So this is the first demo. Second demo is longer than that. So with Brett, because of Ylan. Ylan complained a lot. So okay, let's do what he wants. And he complained about the cache. So I worked on the cache. We discussed about what had to be done and what was missing. And also based on the last 2 weeks ago discussion, I made something. So I worked on the cache modules. Maybe you have seen something in the gallery. First, I will show you new improvements on the contributed cache, so the output cache. So if I go to modules and I say contrib.cache, cache enable. So the standard cache system now, you see there are a bunch of new modules. I will show you. So now the cache system is the same as previously. Okay, render caching information in cached pages here. So if I go to the website, I will open a new browser just to have one with the management and one with authentication, without authentication. So this is the home page and the cache is enabled. So, well, I want to do the opposite. I want to log out from here and I will sign in there. So here it's cached. And if I do F12 and I go to network and I hit again, you will see that new thing is that there is a new header in the response if the inject debug cache information is checked in the dashboard. You see X cached on and X cached until here. So yeah, so you know now when a page is has been rendered by the cache on, and before you also had this comment at the end of the page if you wanted. But now it's in the header, it's better to debug stuff. Also, you see here I have a home page and I have two news items on the home page, and about is an about page. It's cached now. This page now is cached. This news item, this one too. So if I go now to the dashboard and I update a news item, for instance the Netflix one, edit, and I say blah in the end, publish, it's published. Now if I hit F5 on the home page, you see it's not coming from the cache anymore. So the home page has nothing to do in the URL based on this content. It's just a widget injected in the home page, but it has been refreshed automatically. And if I go to about is still in the cache because it has nothing to do with this news item. And if I go to the news item itself, the news item is also not in the cache, but this one is still in the cache. So the new feature is that it's able to detect on each page which content items are displayed in any display type, and then tag each cached page with all the content items which were used during the rendering. So when we change a content item, we can invalidate exactly only the pages which are using this content item. So this makes the invalidation pretty good. Last week or 2 weeks ago, Brett had shown a button to invalidate everything when something is published. So now you can just invalidate what is necessary. So this is the first improvement. Then second improvement, I refactored the contrib.cache, so the output cache module, to use output storage provider. The default implementation is still using the ASP.NET Cache, okay? And I have made other implementation. So for instance, modules. So I think my anti-malware service has started. It's slow now. So database, event typing. So contrib.cache.database is a separate module. If I enable it, it won't use the ASP.NET cache storage anymore. It will use the database as a cache storage. That could sound stupid, but it's not. So what it will do is that when it will save a page into the output cache, it will actually save it in the database. So to load a page, what it will do is one database query, which says, give me the cached page for this URL. And if it's there, it gives you the result. So it's one query, one database query per HTTP request. Okay, and the advantage of that is that if you have multiple nodes, like a farm, you have a very simple solution to have a shared cache system for all your nodes. It's just one query. And if you SQL Server, the query will be cached, so it's like memory cache. So I can't do the demo anymore while I have this anti-malware running. 12.15.
Sorry, could you combine the two things, like persist the cache in the database, but also in memory? So when the site restarts and the memory, but inside the memory gets lost, you still have the cache if it is still valid?
Well, you could create your own custom logic. What could be even better would be to have a provider which saves. So like you said, not in the memory plus database, but like in the warm-up folder plus somewhere, like memory or database, which will make that anytime a page is rendered, it's saved on the disk in the warm-up folder. So when you will start up the website again, it will use a warm-up module with the cached page, so it will be instantaneous. So this is, I think, a better solution. But you can do what you suggested too. So,
is this a breaking change? Does it require some changes from the modules that today used? Brett, wasn't there a problem in Mendeley that you found?
No, it wasn't breaking. It just it's a dependency. So there's a dependency now. Yeah.
No. This is different. I will continue my demonstration and talk about what has been done. This is different. So this output cache doesn't break anything from what you have today. It works with versions 1.0. Okay. So here I enabled the database cache, and it works also with version 1.0. It's just creating a record to save the pages in the DB. And there is a background task to clear the DB when the pages are deprecated, like after 5 minutes, things like that. So it's completely working with 1.0. So this is contrib.cache.database. There is another module. I won't do the demonstration. I will explain you how it works because it doesn't work now anymore. So if I go to, you see contrib.cache.memcache. This I won't enable, but trust me. And so what it does is it's another output cache storage provider, which will save the cache inside the memcached instance. So it works. I can't show it to you now, but it works. And that's what Brett is working on now to test the thing. Then talks and talks after talks. There is a need for a business cache. Right now we have a caching API which has been designed to handle system information cache, like the content types, some settings, things like that. But when you need business cache, like caching web service or something which is long and you don't want to call every time, and you have a form, you need to be able to share this cache on different nodes. And the current implementation can't be shared on different nodes. It's too complex because it requires too much from the caching system, like invalidation about anything using monitors, and being able to store any content type, or any C# instance. So not maybe serializable, and then it can break everything. So I created a new module called orchard.caching, which is supposed to be used for business caching needs. And it's a very simple interface, so you can create very simple implementation. Example, orchard.caching here. The interface is this one. So when you inject ICacheService, it's no more iCache manager but ICacheService, you can get a key and give a value if the key is not there, optionally a time span for the invalidation. You can put a value and put a value with a time span. You can remove a value by key and clear the cache. That's it. Okay, key and optionally time span. That's all you need from the cache service, and that's all you need from a business cache service. So the implementation is based on cache service providers, and what you just have to implement is get, put with a time span, remove and clear. And the default implementation uses ASP.NET cache, and there is a module which adds the memcache possibility. So the memcached for orchard caching will save all the values in a memcached service. Also, a quick note is that if you use Azure, the Azure caching service is compatible with memcached protocol, which means this module will also work on Azure by default. You just have to enable the cache on Azure, it will work on all your instances. And there is another module which is called memcached, which contains everything you need to be able to communicate to a memcached service. So the contrib.cache.memcached and the orchard.caching.memcached are using the memcached module here. So there is they all use the same logic to communicate, and it's also tenant aware, which means you can enable it and it will be prefixed automatically by the tenant. So that's why there is this module too.
Okay, so of course there is some dissonance here in the chat. Some people here don't understand why you shouldn't use iCache Manager. Okay. And I think it's going to be the initial reaction from everyone. Okay. I think it was my initial reaction as well.
Yeah, mine too. And
yeah, so that's perfectly natural. But Sébastien is right. Please explain.
So I had two good points. I wrote them because it was important, but maybe if I can recall when I wrote them. Not here. So first point is that when you implement a custom service to store the cache, for instance, let's say memcached. If you have another example, let me know. Memcached is not able to invalidate by anything else than a key and then a timestamp. Okay, so it can be done automatically. So it has to be done by your tenants, for instance. If you do that and you want to work with today's implementation, you need to be able to maintain, for instance, let's say a file notification. A file has changed. How will you do? Let's say you have 3 tenants and one of the tenants is adding a dependency on a file change, okay, to the cache, and it changes on another tenant. How would you implement that? I can't. Maybe you can, I can't. So by putting a lot of constraints on the cache implementation, like we did for the API, we can't use all the caching systems we want. So we need, for business cache, a caching system which is very simple, very few constraints. Here is just, you can invalidate by a timestamp, and you can invalidate by a key. Also, the current API doesn't have any constraint on which objects you can save. So you can save any C# object. It will be just a reference in the memory. That's how it has been done. You save anything, even an Hibernate object if you want. If you want to use a centralized cache, a shared cache, a service cache, then you need to only be able to save serializable objects, DTOs. If we want to do that today, we will have to change all the objects we currently save in the memory to serializable objects. I think Nick has some experience with that because we tried to make some. So that's two technical, right now, impossibilities to make the current cache API to be.
Yeah, if I may reformulate, it surfaces in the API the constraints that you are going to have in any case if you are going to manage those cache entries on a farm. So by surfacing those constraints in the API, you don't create, crazy requirements and leaky abstractions that you will have to pay for later. If you use iCache Manager, you end up being forced to implement what Brad has been spending a lot of time on, which is, distributed evict and stuff like that, and it becomes very complex very fast. And it's a much saner approach to have an API that reflects what's really going on. Does that capture it?
Yeah, and the idea is that then the difficult question is when to use the cache manager and when to use the cache service. If you have configuration data which is system-wide, which are actually system-related, it should be in the cache API. If you have business data like web services or complex database calls, this could be in the cache service.
So what Sébastien means by system data is data that is only going to change, that when it's going to change, it's going to trigger a restart of the app in any case.
Yeah, so something that you should not change directly in production, but in dev or staging. For instance, creating...
Or a setting on the side.
Yeah, so for instance, creating a content type should not be done on a production system with multiple nodes. You will hit an issue with that. You should do it locally on dev, and then you push the changes on the machines, and you restart the systems.
How do you do that for a new content type?
Well, you develop your site, and then you push you restart your nodes to say take the new data, or you push a new system, a new version of the system.
Oh, so you don't mean?
No, I mean it's yeah. Today's content types.
Migration and.
Yeah, so today the content types are cached in the old API. Okay, today what is also cached? The tenant list, for instance.
Or shape list.
Shape list, for instance. Yeah. So this is something which is which has to be done on dev before being done on production. Brett came with a nice example.
Wait, can you go back over? Did you or did you not mean content type at some point?
I said content types are in the old cache API, and if you create a content type, it should not be done in production directly.
So the UI-based content types actually shouldn't be used on production, so defining content types through the admin UI?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so that's not...
Well, that's a different point. Maybe not
Yeah.
related to cache directly.
Well,
I
if,
agree. I think that there's something weird about that, and we can talk about it later. But
if you have a farm, why would you do that?
What do you
because the
mean?
end
Why-
user
why-
doesn't
why
care
would
whether
you
you
do
have a
that?
farm.
We have a custom forms module that relies entirely on that.
Mhm.
For example, that's one example.
Yeah, what?
I think that's a difference. Taking us off caching. I didn't mean to do that, but it did raise a red flag for me. Address it at a later date.
Well, I don't really know what the downside of using the business cache for mostly everything is.
Well, right now there is not really downsides. The downside is just the how you can handle the invalidation, and if you just care about just keys and timestamps, time spans, then it's okay to use the business cache, even for that. Yeah, actually.
Yeah,
I think we need to discuss further, maybe offline, the issue of new content types and how that works on the farm. There is a real issue there.
Yeah, I just wanted to answer Brad. There are certain scenarios, for example, when you're monitoring the file changes, so the shape table relies on the file change monitoring. So if you change a particular CSHTML file, it automatically flushes the cache and refreshes it. So it's something you couldn't do with memcached.
Yeah, there's a case, but I'm talking about inside custom modules. I understand the Orchard core. Sure, that's something you don't need to be distributed, but for the most part, these custom modules, for example, Sébastien has the rewrite rule module, which we all use, where you could set up your rewrite rules. When a user makes a change to that in the dashboard, we want all the nodes to get it right away. So there's an example where we probably want to port it from, we want to port it to ICacheService.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So there are totally different use cases for both of those cache implementations.
So the open questions are, if now we have two different APIs, we might reconsider some of the current implementations to use the new one instead of the old one. Question is what?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm literally searching my solution for the word iSignals, and I'm going through and looking at each of them and saying, okay, well, this one should really be distributed, meaning, implement the provider interface that Sébastien just built, versus, oh, this one, I could probably just leave as is. It doesn't matter if it's on a per node basis. But most of them, almost all of them, I do think need to be moved in our case, in OneStop's case.
If it's something that you develop and it's not in core, it makes sense to have business because it's usually based on business and not core Orchard API, core Orchard stuff. So I would say that if you create a module, and even more if it's called Spy Optic or something like that, it is business wide. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think in 95% of the cases we should go for the new implementation and use that. There's very little scenarios in which you will have to use the previous one, like caching some output of objects, some providers or some, like the shape table cache or.
So having a different also provider adds another benefit is that the work that Brett had done was about signaling, pushing the signal across all the nodes, which will just say invalidate the cache, and each node will also do the request. For instance, if you have a web service which takes 20 seconds, each node on the farm will do the request on the web service. Having the memcached implementation and this new API makes it possible to reuse the value from one node. So if one node queried the service, then all the other nodes have it available.
Sébastien, one thing I think might help is right now the way it works is you enable the provider, and then that provider becomes the cache manager. So if you enable memcached, that one's in effect. There might be some cases where you want some parts of the code to use a different provider than others, but use the same API. So I wonder how we could do that.
Yeah. So I will not say it like that. For instance, you might, well, in my opinion, you might want the output cache to be somewhere, and you might want your business cache to be somewhere else. And right now, it's you can do it because I intentionally didn't merge the provider for the output cache and for the business cache. So you can say today, I want to use the database for the output cache, and I want to use the memcached service for the business cache. You can do that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm talking about, let's say you want to use business cache, but on this particular module, you want to use the business cache, but you want to use the .NET Runtime business cache, and on this other module, you want to use the memcached.
Today you can't, and I don't know how you will do that because it's one module to provide business cache, and you can say on which provider it will be complex for.
Yeah.
So maybe we should extend the iCache storage provider to have a name, and when you put something or get something, you will have to provide a name.
That's why I say I don't want to add this complexity just for this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, well, that's an improvement, but this was...
if you really want to use the ASP.NET cache at some point, which is not replicated across nodes, then use HTTP runtime cache directly. Use it directly, not an abstraction on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if you use an abstraction, it's to abstract things and you don't care about where it is, and it's a different step to configure where it is. If you say now, no, I want to use the ASP.NET cache for this service call, let's use it directly. Don't say, I want to use the provided caching service.
One thing, Sébastien, I don't know if you were going to mention, but I'll mention it if you didn't think of it, was Sébastien mentioned making other providers. Now that you've extended this, someone could make a Redis implementation, or there's other ones out there. There's other cache dictionaries out there. And the idea is they only have to implement, the 5 functions here?
Yeah.
So how can we communicate the existence of this outside this outside the steering committee meeting? Do you want to put something on the Orchard website, or usually promote?
Technically, we could make a blog post. Yeah, and then the doc topic. But if we just want to raise a discussion, a blog post first, and a forum discussion, or just an announcement in the forum, and then when we finalize the talks, documentation.
Yeah. How to set up cache, how to set up caching, and how to use the caching APIs.
So in the end, I am pushing to have 4 different APIs for caching, which are the system API that iCacheManager, a business API, which would be on chart.caching, ICacheService, the new one, output caching, which is a specific module, and database caching, something we have with syscache and could also use memcached.
Oh, Sébastien, maybe we could have some global object, like we have the one already for Orchard services, like ICacheService, and inside that one you will have different, for example, in different properties, like the business cache, the internal cache, the HTTP cache, and something like this. So you will just have to use...
So actually, in terms of development, you just care about 2 of them. The system cache and the business cache. You don't want to access the database cache, and you don't want to access the output cache. They are system caches. They are not user caches, developer caches. See, so you need just 2.
Yeah, okay, so it may be, just 2 of those, but I was just thinking about having a single point of entry to the whole caching system, so you won't have to remember which interfaces to inject, which not, and...
I'm not sure, because if we need to, if we need to talk to devs, then we might want to advertise the new one, the ICacheService, and tell people if you need to use a cache, it probably will be the ICacheService now, the business cache, instead of the system cache. So I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, but I'm just pretty sure that it will provide some confusion because we will have
pretty sure-
ICacheService
No.
and iCache
I'm
Manager.
pretty sure showing two different interfaces will add some confusion, more than if we just say to people, use the ICacheService in most of the time. So if we agree with the ICacheService, I don't know why they would use the old cache API.
Is there any way to make? I know it would be king, but can you make iCache Manager, private? Just, or is that a bad idea? But
It's it's there. If you know it and you know you need it, you use it. Like today, I don't know how to make it private. It's just a service that you depend on if you need it.
No, Brett, it would break, like 90% of the existing modules, making it private.
well, that's only if they recompile with the newest version of Orchard. It's part of the. It's a breaking change. Yes, I understand.
Yeah, but there are still
Also,
some
we
scenarios.
don't do private APIs.
Oh.
We just don't mention them. And
I just mean, how about this? Would we do something like something crazy where if you inherit from, or if you use it, it throws a build warning saying it's been deprecated?
Well, yeah, exactly. I was going to say the right way of doing that, the good practice, is to mark it deprecated if really you are not going to use it anymore.
Yeah.
it's not that we don't want to use it anymore. It's just that
We haven't taken that decision.
we don't want to expose it to users anymore.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I know you're not. I don't think you're intending on rewriting all the core code to use this. I imagine you're not. So,
No, and we do want every tenant, for instance, sometimes every tenant to be dependent on a file change. We do want every tenant to be dependent on I don't know what monitor. And that's a service that we give to developers. But I just say that.
And there is no good reason why we are not going to say, do what I say, don't do what I do, right? This is not how it works. If somebody has a good reason to use those APIs, they should be able to. The same that we are able to use them.
For me, it's a different service that we provide to users.
Yeah, it will cause some confusion, and it is probably hard to explain, which is why we need a doc topic.
But it will also solve the current issues that people have with distributed caching.
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, it's great. Really happy about it.
Also, there is not a single breaking change, and it's just right now external modules. There is no talk about having it in core right now. There are external modules, you can take reference on it and use it. They are on Bitbucket right now, and they will be on the gallery soon. They're on Bitbucket just because it takes a lot of time to put them on Codeplex and approval and everything. And so I wanted them to be safe, backed up. So they're on Bitbucket right now.
Oh, by the way, Sébastien, have you thought? I'm looking at the interface right now. Have you been thinking about adding the generic versions of that so you would get the exact object that you want without having to cast?
This one is just a storage provider. This is the one you implement if you want to provide a new storage mechanism. The one you use is this one and is generic.
Oh, okay.
And you see it's a get or add. You see, it's a get, but you provide a lambda for what you want to put. So it's just the implementation is simple. If you want to provide a storage provider, the usage is simple for the developer. So it's like the old usage: get key, and you put a lambda which is called when the key is not there, and optionally time span when it's put that take it just for 10 seconds or whatever. If you don't put a time span, it will be forever.
So are there any limitations to the old API that we would want to remove from this one? I remember that some things were a little difficult. I'm not sure exactly why it was, but does somebody remember having difficulties using the old API?
Yes, I can tell you.
Okay.
Piotr asked to be able to check if a key was existing.
Yes.
And I'm against that. Again, for the same reasons, you can't.
I'm against that too, right now.
Cool.
I changed my mind.
Okay, you can't oblige a storage provider to be able to reflect itself on the keys it has. For instance, memcached is unable to tell you if it has a key. Get the value. If you get a null, you don't have any value. That's the same thing. The same.
No, because you need to provide the function. You need to provide the factor.
Oh yeah, so it's the same issue here. Yeah, so the problem was that you cannot get the value without setting it first. So you don't know if the value you have received is the actual value from the cache or the one that you have actually created right now.
You have to create a dummy factory that returns 0 or something stupid like that.
Yeah, so in the old cache, I circumvented it. I found two solutions. Actually, the first was to put a null value and catch the null reference, which is very, very bad, but it worked. And the second one was I was just checking the signals. I was just created a singleton object, about just a dictionary that held all the tokens that are being used that I want to monitor, and I just check the validity.
Okay, so do we want to have an overload with just a key here?
Well, I could say you can use the storage provider if you want to access it like that, to look into the cache to see if there is something.
That feels even more.
We should look into the old meetings we had. Maybe because there was a good reason to do that.
And the factory function is pretty neat. I like to use it, but I think it may be a little hard for some people to wrap their heads around it if they're not used to lambdas. And sure, if you're not used to lambdas, you're going to have a hard time for sure.
Yeah, but you can use put. Oh, well, yeah,
yes.
That's what you say.
No, that's why I'm saying that there is more than one reason why you would want the overload with just the key.
Another reason is that is the discrepancy here. If there is a get which has a put automatically, why do you have a put and not a get?
Yes.
So we should hide it
why have the
like
put
this.
in the first place?
Yeah, so it's either you have the get and the put, or you just provide this.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but there should be a get without the lambda. So
Get with a key.
That's what we say. If you have a put here, there should be the get. So if you get and put, or just those ones. Okay.
Okay.
Then remove everything.
Oh, I see. Really? You want to do that? You want to remove?
I'm stupid, No, because as I said, you have the ICacheService and you have the ICache provider. So if you really want to get and put something inside, you use a storage provider. This is very orchardy.
Yeah. So basically, your put is in the factory.
This is a get with a put, and if you want to access get from a key or put a key value, you use the cache storage provider. It's also another high dependency, just you access directly
You would no, I wouldn't want. I wouldn't.
If you did have a reason to do a put without a get, then you can. I mean, you can still do that. You just throw away the result of the get.
That's a little unintuitive. Maybe you should if you just add a get with a key without a lambda.
No, there is a reason to use a cache service. It's adding the prefix automatically. So yeah.
I don't think you want to inherit directly or use that directly.
Prefix being the tenant name, so that You
Yeah.
don't care about which tenant is running, it will be siloed by tenant.
Yeah.
So Sebastian, if I use the get and put a null value instead of the factory, so it will just and if I get a null in result, should it? You know, I'm just trying to figure out a nice way to just check for the existence of a key because I'm still confused.
But you will just do get key. We'll do that because we need it.
Oh, can the factory be an optional?
Yeah, as I say, you will have something like that. Done. You will have it. Okay. We will do it.
Okay.
And this could be an extension method.
And what would happen if there are two simultaneous calls to get? Will both of the factories run, even if one exits?
There is no
before the other?
look right now. I will say
Because
so. What could be the issues? What could be the issue?
The issue is only that there are some tasks that should be processed or run only once. Yeah.
So why don't you lock yourself in the factory?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you can't lock nodes, other nodes.
Yeah, but then how do you do that? What is the solution? The solution has to be implemented on the storage itself. And when I say on the storage, it's on the service, like memcached. So then it's handled by memcached. If you can't handle it in your Lambda, it's handled by memcached, and that's dependent on the implementation of the service. You can't change anything.
Actually, to solve this, I've created a locking file service to lock on files in files created by the storage provider. So if you have a correct implementation for that, and it's stored in a shared folder, shared media folder, or something like that, it will have some kind of locking. But I was just curious whether you have something for that here.
Then I would say do it in your call, because if it's for a call that you know that you don't want concurrency, then you can say okay, and they will all rely on this file, or on this service if you have another service. So that's up to you to make a service for that. We have today this service. It's there. You don't have to implement that. That's called the iLock file service, or iLock service, and it's using a file by default. So
yeah, but it uses the app data folder. That's not
true.
necessarily
So you can
correct.
So you can do the same one, another service for shared instances.
Yeah, that's what I have done.
Okay.
But really, I was just curious. But you have explained is perfectly reasonable. So okay.
So what's the decision on the interface here? We are putting get and put on the interface, and the others become extension methods.
Yeah.
Can you put them in the same namespace?
Yes. It's funny because Ylan is there and he had a comment about that on an internal discussion.
I totally did, but I wasn't paying attention.
Okay, sorry. We were talking about moving the extension methods on the same namespace as the interface itself, on which the extension.
Yeah.
So here, yes, because it's very specific to this interface, so let's do it in the same namespace. Just to separate the implementation of this thing.
Yeah, it keeps implementation of the interface very pure.
And we don't require people to implement their own service and also implement these functions.
It's easy to find because it's in the same namespace. You don't need to add a specific namespace, and we still encourage that API to be used.
Why extension methods and not just regular methods?
We just answered that question. you should have paid attention. You will have to read to know. Seriously, it's because interface is a contract, okay? So you will need to implement that interface, okay? And if you don't make them extension methods, every implementer of the interface will have to provide an implementation for that. It's going to be a simple implementation, and it's always going to be the same, so it's a perfect candidate to be factored into extension methods. This way we have only one implementation. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So one more thing, Sébastien, do you want to talk about the evict all versus evict by item? You can't do that anymore now.
For memcached only.
Yeah.
So it's in the output cache storage provider, there is an interface. In the interface, if we look at it, output cache storage provider, there is a set key value, cache item. Actually, this is a cache item for output cache. There is also some interfaces for statistics that you can implement if your output cache provider provides statistics, like give me all the keys and how many items in the cache right now. So it's for this screen. The cache screen here, statistics, go. I put something in the stats. Oh, it's recompiling. I think the modules I've just changed, but it's okay. So the idea is that you can provide statistics, but memcached is unable to provide statistics. You can't ask it, what are your keys? You could ask it how many keys you have, but that's it. Because everything is hashed inside, so it can tell you which key it has and which object it has. In the beginning, I was monitoring everything which was added to the cache, so I could provide some statistics about the cache. But I removed it because if you run on a farm, which is why you want to use memcached, then every node of the farm has its own set of keys which have been added, which makes the full cache here node dependent per node, so it's useless. So you have the evict all still button, but when you use memcached, you have no statistics about it directly into the dashboard. You can have statistics by requesting to the cache service itself. So if I connect to memcached, let's run memcached. So this is running the service, and this one will ask for statistics. You see stats here. It will tell you how many items, how many misses, things like that. So with the memcached, it's a system process that you have to scrutinize to see what happens, and that you can see that here. You can just evict everything. You can't evict one item only.
Yeah, that's I guess it is what it is. There's no, I mean, there's that Couchbase server that's out there that probably has a aggregate.
There is a technical solution. Okay, I didn't do it. What could be done is whenever the cache storage provider for memcached is saving a value, you also update one entry in the cache service which contains all the keys with a predefined key. But I didn't do it because I didn't want to impact the performance, because here, whenever you will add a key, it will also have to retrieve the main key to add something and change the value. You see? So
Yeah.
every get will do 2 gets and 1 set.
Yeah.
Sorry, every set
So what-
will do two set and 1 get.
So why can't you get the statistics that you just showed in the command
No,
line?
well, it's nothing. It's just how many items do you have and how
Yeah.
many. No, because
So it's not as detailed.
no, and
It's
again,
not the same
It could be cross node. Bertrand, it could be cross node, so you can't iterate through.
Yeah.
No.
You can't iterate through a memcached and ask for all
this
the
screen,
keys.
the cache statistics screen, is just about showing which URL when evicted. There is no way to get this information from memcached.
Yes, I
can't-
understand. But what I'm asking is if I mean that's a statistics tab. So okay, the behavior would be different.
So, okay, so let's extend it to provide any metadata that the like get stats. Okay, give me what you can give me, and I will display it on the screen also.
Yeah, in a dictionary or
String, yeah. Okay. That's metadata.
But that won't be a full list though, right, Sebastian?
No, that will just be number of the thing you have in the stats here.
Oh, just the number of items.
Everything here. Okay, let's give that. Instead of going to the system and asking for it. Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Bertrand, you can do it also. You can't do it. Well, you can somehow. No, because this stats is per server.
Correct.
Per
That's right.
memcached server. So you will, okay, we could ask for every server, every node, but
It's only on that screen. I mean, it wouldn't impact performance anywhere.
But you have a server list. You have a server list, Sebastian. You know, you have it anyway. So yeah, you'd have to hit every server. Yeah,
It's better than having to write something on each request.
Yeah,
Well,
but
right now, this one is not.
isn't there a possibility to fetch all the cached items from the
No.
memcached?
No.
No,
that's what I said.
That's why I brought it up. Yeah, I don't. There's no way, huh?
There might be, but it didn't work for me. Because you can have statistics about what are the items, and maybe you could, I will see if there is a get value for each item. You can't have the keys, but you can have the item. And if we can have the item, the key is in the item too. And all the values, so I will see. I will try again. Maybe it will be possible.
Okay.
Cool. That is really going to to have a huge impact on many people using your job. So this is something we've needed for a while. So.
And it works in old versions of Orchard as well.
Yeah,
by the way.
1.0.
Oh, you weren't kidding. You have actually tested that.
No, I just know that I'm not using anything that is not used.
Oh, you're just being overconfident. Okay.
Always.
I've tested it on 1.4.2, and it seems to be working. So.
Yeah, that's really fantastic. Thanks. It's been an hour, so are you done first?
Yes. Unless you want me to show what I did on the other module.
Okay, it will take 5 minutes, right?
30 seconds.
It will be a nice teaser for next week.
Oh, I'm on holidays next week. I have to tell my manager too.
Oh, he's here, so.
Yeah, I don't think you will see me next week. Oh, maybe. Yeah, it depends. Yeah, we'll see. So I enable workflows and workflows. You remember the discussion on the. So to create a workflow, nothing works. It's just to show you the editor which works and the integration with custom activities. So create a new workflow. For instance, my workflow. Save. Then you go in edit mode. First, it just right now render all the available activities. Okay, activity being a step in the workflow. An activity can be an event or an action. So content created is an event. Decision is an action. Notify is like the other notification rule. When you click on one, for instance, notify, you get a notify here, and the notified has one outcome, which is done here. okay? And a decision has two outcomes, true and false. So you can say when the decision is true, go to notify, and do another notification when the decision is false. And you only go to the decision when, for instance, you have a content created. So when a content is created, boom, you go to the decision, and decision decide whatever you want. It's just the form that you will provide with the editor. I didn't integrate the form. I haven't integrated the form yet. And you see this one as a little lightning here is just because it's an event, so it will be a blocking event. So if it's the entry point of the workflow will be started when this event is triggered, like the rules module today. It can be also in the middle of a workflow, so that when a content is created, it decides something. Okay, true, false, true, I notify this. And then when it's notified, then you wait for another content created, which means this workflow is hibernated, is serialized somewhere, and will be waiting to be rehydrated or awakened when this event is launched again, and it will continue its process. So it's long-running workflows like Workflow Foundation, and you have the editor here directly in the dashboard. And to create those items, you just implement a specific interface, which is iActivity. And this is exactly like the rules we have today, the rules module. I just need to integrate now the forms and serializing it, and also the engine. But the editor is working and it's nice. Oh, and by the way, it's pink because it's a shape. Let me show you.
Sébastien, have you used some existing library to draw those?
Don't imagine I can do that by myself. I'm not paid enough to do that. So look at that.
How is it called?
It's GS Plumb. It's awesome. I will give you the link in the chat. So workflows, if you go to views, there is an activity shape, which is rendering an activity shape like that. Okay, this is the default one, but you can customize it. You see with alternates like activity content created. I just said background color pink. So it's a shape, which means you can override exactly how you want to show this thing. So now it's just a rounded square pink, but you could have any bitmap or any SVG shape or whatever you want to show a node here with your activity. So it's completely customizable and overridable by theme because it's just a shape.
Awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Ylan, what do you think of that?
Doesn't think.
No, I do. I thought that was pretty cool. I'd like to see more of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, but the scenarios will be very interesting, like when a content is created, wait for 30 days, close the comments, and everything will be viewable. Also, what you will have under workflows, you will be able to see the current running workflows. I'm just summarizing the discussion we had on the forum. So you will have running workflows, because when a workflow is hydrated and waiting to work again, to continue its execution, you will be able to see it and to see what is waiting for. And there will be also tasks pane, so that you can, in your workflow, create a task which is ask a user with a specific role to decide yes or no if he can continue or validate the content item, whatever. So when you go to this page, you can see for any user or for yourself the task that you can do. And the task will be an action that the workflow activity will define, like approve, reject, and on approve, do that, and on reject, do that. So that will be interesting to see. Yeah.
So if you have a screen to monitor the state of a workflow, is it going to be read-only, or would an administrator, for example, be able to nudge the workflow into the next step?
Yes, based on rights, we also have to discuss about debugging, like show me the screens of the running workflow and what is the state for each node, because each node has a state in the running workflow, or what is the state for the workflow itself. So this will be, I think, ongoing discussions about.
And other question, what about history of what happened on the workflow?
Yeah, right now there is no service for that, but yes, why not providing a service for that? Yeah. Yeah. That's simple questions because they've already been asked on other framework, and there are solutions we can take inspiration from. And
there's various reasons why one would use a mod. I don't want to call it module, but a tool set. Use it for forums. You may want to use it for commenting on blogs. You may want to use it for various things, right, to moderate. Would you see using a workflow as a baseline for a moderation tool?
Yes, that's the goal. The initial goal was just to make a workflow as moderation tool, a moderation workflow, approval workflow.
There's two things there, right? Here is where content is created, and that could be internally within the content management system versus externally by an end user interfacing with the site.
You could have two different events or customize this one to say, yeah. And if it's from the site externally, it's about providing a specific event for that. Mm-hmm. It's just about implementing one simple class for triggering the event. Yeah.
And so this could use obviously for moderation. It could also be used obviously for somebody has access to the content management system. They create a new page. It can't go and be published until it's been reviewed.
Yes.
And Sébastien, what's the actual relationship between the rules and the workflows? Because it looks like it's the superset of
yes,
what.
That's why I explained on the forum. So the workflow module will replace the rules module. The rules module will be on the gallery because it's there and people are using it. But if you want to go further, you will use the workflows module because it does what the rules module does today, but with more options and also graphically. So it will be a replacement of that. There is no migration path, but you can use
So the rules that are already defined in the rules module can be just put into the workflow somehow?
No, they will still be here. It's a different module. They will work. And you can enable the workflows module to do your workflows. And we won't ship the rules anymore. We will suggest people to use workflows instead.
Mm-hmm. But I'm just thinking about, because there is a lot of modules that add the different rules right now, so maybe that could be some way to wrap an existing rule. No? Okay.
No. Too hard. For nothing. Let's ask people to create workflows now, workflow activities now for their stuff, and to use that if they want.
So if you're not shipping rules anymore, it's still going to be available as a module.
Yeah, like the orchard list we did for projections. When projection arrived, we said, don't use list anymore if you can. If you have something working with list, use it. It's there. We don't remove it. But if you create new stuff, use projections.
And you couldn't say that a rules action is here like an activity? Or...
There are more things that you need. Yeah, you could create a wrapper around that, but then you will have a dependency on the rules. You will have the same time copy-pasting the class and making it implement a I activity, actually. That's how I do for notification. I just copy-paste because it's the same thing. I didn't reinvent everything.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's always the same thing. You spend time making, the best model work in the new one, and then it's more baggage, whereas, you can bet on the future and have a cleaner solution. So it doesn't sound unreasonable.
Do we foresee having default workflows available as part of core?
What I was thinking was about providing a way to have sort of wizards or helpers to say, okay, create me a workflow which has that, and that, and we'll create it for you based on a template, a code template, I mean your own template, that will create it for you based on a few different variables. So you could say, create me a validation workflow with approved reject for my pages, which is something standard.
Like recipes,
yeah,
with some parameters.
And so this will join the discussion we had for setup, like having wizards for recipes and everything. Mm-hmm. So yeah, because it's a typical scenario to create a approval workflow for I don't know, pages or whatever you want. Simple one, and it will just scaffold a workflow for you, and then you can change it if you want. Yes.
Let me give you an example of an internal one, which is creating users in the admin. Right. Mm-hmm. That is, there's no real approval process. There's no real community. You have to set all that up. So would we see one where there's some potentially using the workflow module as a default?
Yeah, I assume you will be able to export a workflow. So why not? Yeah, reuse it across your instances.
Yeah, but I'm thinking even setting up a basic one as part of core.
Oh. As part of core, but core is not really
workflow is not going to be in core.
Actually, it depends on what you call core, but right now, we don't know.
Version 1.7.
I mean, but yeah, there are core modules and the module named core.
I'm sorry. So I mean core modules. So when I'm downloading 1.7 as an instance, I would get workflows as part of that package.
The issue with user, for instance, is that users, not only is it a core module, a core module, but it's also enabled by default.
Correct.
So if it had a dependency on workflows, it will enable workflows by default. I'm not totally against that. We haven't discussed that, but that's the implication.
I'm just throwing it out there as a consideration, because then it's a nice thing if we have a default workflow. Is also it just sort of introduces people to it. And there's a preset good example there about how to create new users for your content management system.
What could be done would be that when we install workflows, we have another option to install example workflows, but they are disabled and people can look at them, enable them, and change them. Yeah, so there are like templates, they are there just as examples, yes, for people to see what can be done.
Mm-hmm.
It could also be another module, workflow examples.
Well, when we stop having the potential issues of module overhead, fine. But in
it's workflow example just for people who don't know what it is.
Comment moderation and no, not comment moderation. Comment notifications and content approval are both super common. So.
Now, moderation can be used for so many things. It can be used for questions and answers, ratings and reviews, forums, just a ton. So we'd be very interested in seeing that.
Yep.
Cool. Hour and 20 minutes. For everything you've done.
Yeah, but I won't do much in 1 month now, so it's
good. Sweet. Oh, benevolent dictator, you want to call this meeting?
Yeah, I think we're done. Yep. Thanks, everyone. And, we'll talk next week. Thanks, Sébastien.
Thank
you.
Awesome demos.
Just one thing.
Yes.
Sébastien joked last week about me implementing a module for Orchard that makes coffee. Now,
great!
I just couldn't stand it, so here it is.
You are sharing something?
What is this?
I just pasted a link into the chat window. It's not exactly a normal coffee, but...
Oh, it's good. It's doing coffee script. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Hilarious.
I'll add that to the meeting notes.
Does it actually work?
Yeah, of course.
Sultan did it. Of course it works.
That's awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks. And we'll see you next week. Bye-bye. Have a nice week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.